Hello, hello. Hi, everybody. Yeah, it's wonderful to see everybody. This is a really, really exciting event. Um, I'm sort of, I'm tasked with just saying hello to everybody as they come in. And I'll be talking more later, as is my custom. I'm always happy to talk for as long as people give me. But first, I just want before we get into the weeds of everything, I just want to thank Lucas and just say how much work Lucas and the team have put into this symposium and frankly into everything to do with the generative AI efforts at CTLT. So a lot of the team are on screen right now. So Rich and Lucas and Judy have been doing so much work to get all of the generative AI stuff together. So thanks to all of you for making all of this a reality. It's just been an incredible push, really, to get all of these things up and running. So yay! It's thanks to everybody that were here, but mainly this one. I think Lucas, this was you sort of came around to this. You were like, I think we need a symposium. I think it needs to look like this, and so the reason that we're all here is thank you, Lucas. So nice work, well done, you did it. Congrats. So while we're just welcoming everybody, I just want to say hello. And the way that the session is going to go, it's not a tremendously long session. It's just kind of an orientation to the whole couple day event. Lucas is going to start us off by kind of orienting us in the space. And then I will take a few minutes to wax philosophical. I don't know why I'm allowed to do that, but here I am, and I'm just going to do that, which is going to be exciting for me. And you're all going to be subjected to that, which is great also for me. And then we're just going to take a look at the next couple of days. I think that it's the case that every Zoom link is the same for this event, right, Lucas? Yeah. So if you've registered only for this event, but you're like, oh, I wish I had registered for a couple of other events, don't worry. You can just click the same link and it's all just one whole day of, 2 whole days of stuff all on the same link. So yeah. Okay, well, I think our numbers have kind of settled. Super excited to see everybody here. And again, thank you so much to Lucas for putting this together. It's just been this Herculean effort, and so much of your vision has gone into this. And so thank you. I'm super proud to hand it over to you to welcome everybody to today. So thank you.
Thanks for the kind words, and hopefully it doesn't all go wrong now. So welcome to the Teaching and Learning with GenAI Symposium. And what we're going to do for the next half hour is we wanted to, I'll go through land acknowledgements and intros, and then we wanted to kind of give a little bit overview around almost a thought experiment we've doing, thinking about some of the areas that the institution and society's looking at with GenAI. And then at the tail end of that, I'm going to kind of go over the events and link them into that little framework we put together. So just to begin with, acknowledging that I'm coming from UBC campus, which is on traditional unceded Musqueam territory. And also that I think when we think about generative AI, one of the big ethical issues is the amount of Indigenous knowledge that was online and has been scraped by these tools and is being used without permission. And I think that goes beyond intellectual property, and it starts to get us thinking about colonialism and what the impact of that might be. So let's start with just again, kind of a thought experiment that Alyssa and I were doing, thinking about GenAI in teaching and learning. And we put together this kind of levels of change. And the idea behind the levels of change is that at the very top there, we have our foundations, thinking about our academic integrity, our ethics, our capacity. Then the pedagogical changes, what approaches is it changing in the classroom? What opportunities are there? And then getting into institutional society changes. So what new skills are we needing to learn? What's changing in our professions and disciplines? And then kind of getting to the very top, what will we need to do? How is teaching changing really in a large way? And so what I'm going to do now is walk through 1 and 2 And then Alyssa's going to talk to us more about 3 and 4. So just from a foundational level, and as I'm saying this, I'm like, why did I put foundations at the top? They're odd foundations. However, I think there's kind of some key questions that a lot of us have been asking in the university community and wrestling with. And by foundation level, I mean kind of what we need to do today around Gen AI. And one of the questions right away is, what are the capabilities of these tools? And when Gen AI started getting quite popular in January of this year, you probably saw there's lots of news articles, there's lots of posts, there's lots of articles saying this isn't that powerful. I put in a question, I didn't get a great answer. And I think what a lot of us have seen is that this has changed really quickly, and we're seeing a lot of incredible capabilities with these tools, acknowledging that they're still not experts, but we have seen a big increase in capabilities. And just a couple of examples of that. We know that GPT-4 was able to get 90 in the 90th percentile in the standard bar exam. The study by Lee et al. Showed that Gen AI, when writing critical reflections in the context of pharmaceutical education, was able to score better than the average student, and in addition was indistinguishable from evaluators couldn't distinguish the two outputs. In computer science, we've seen studies that show that GPT can score above average in first and second year computer science problems. And Varada, who's going to be presenting later today, is going to talk a little bit about some of the stuff she's seen in her own context. So we're also seeing capabilities change in terms of what these tools can do. Computer vision now is significant in ChatGPT. If you use GPT voice, you can have some pretty good conversations. Recently, I had a Socratic dialogue about the state of nature with my phone, which was a slightly off-putting experience. We've also seen internet access growing. And, one of the things we said initially was that these tools couldn't access the net. And now we're seeing with Bing AI, the ability to crawl the net and the ability to find more recent references. So that brings up the question is, how do we develop capacity as faculty members, as staff with this changing? And we're hoping that through this symposium, it's one way to start that capacity conversation. With the capabilities, I think, has come some of these huge ethical challenges around this tool. And it's a difficult thing to square personally, is how do we deal with these ethical challenges? We know that a lot of our private data and research and the world's private data has been researched and scraped and sold back to us in some ways. We know that the privacy is quite challenging. These tools haven't passed a PIA. I just saw this morning the ChatGPT data analysis tool. People were able to access files through it by running queries. So we know these tools have leaks in them. We know there's privacy problems. There's environmental questions with these tools. There's equity questions. And then finally, kind of putting these together, how do we think about academic integrity in these space, considering these capabilities of these tools and considering all the work we did, that faculty did during the pandemic, to make our institution more flexible, more accessible for students with things like online exams, online approaches. How do we wrestle with this now? How do we think of academic integrity when we also know that AI detectors have been problematic and they get a lot of false positives, a lot of false negatives, and human capability to detect AI in recent studies, linguists were only able to identify 38% of output generated by ChatGPT. So I think this is a big challenge at the foundational level. And that brings us a little bit to the opportunity. What are new ways of thinking about learning? What are new ways about thinking of teaching in these environments? We have new opportunities for personalization that I don't know if we've seen before. When you think of things like, I know Simon's in the room, he talked about the Bloom Sigma 2 problem, how we know that tutoring is tends to be, at least according to that study, a more powerful way of, or a more effective way of teaching. But what does it mean now that we can have tutoring that may be scalable? How do these models augment our roles as faculty? And what are some new and emerging approaches to teaching and learning? Alyssa, over to you.
You'd think after years of this Zooming that I would know where my mute button is, but it takes me 17 seconds to find it every time. Thanks, Lucas. Thanks for bringing us to this space, and also thank you for your land acknowledgement. I think it is. I'm also joining from traditional Musqueam territory in my office at CTLT. And when Lucas and I were planning this session, we had that picture from slide, the other slide, where is it? This one on my whiteboard. And Lucas said, okay, well, I think I can speak about the foundational, the pedagogical, the institutional, but what do you mean when you say the singularity? What are you talking about? I refuse to speak about that one. So that this is falling to me. And the reason that I think it's important for us to talk about it is because once we have examined, so the questions that have been raised are like, we initially met this with sort of saying, okay, we sort of technical issues. How do we get everybody access? How do we make sure that students aren't cheating? How good is this thing really? There was a lot of concern. And then we sort of moved through these layers of abstraction. Like now we're sort of thinking, okay, well, how can we actually leverage this? What is the role of this in our education? And we're still very much thinking within our shapes that we've already made, our abstractions of our education and our system that we have already worked within. How do we bring this tool into our system so that it can help us, so that it's a facilitator of our existence, without realizing, maybe kind of corner of our eye realizing, but without maybe grappling with the fact that this isn't just a tool that's going to help us. This is a tool that is going to take over and that is going to, in some ways, replace us, and that we will begin to rely on the same way. And I think, Simon, you and I were talking about this. It's almost like the way that we rely on electricity. Like when the power goes out, what do? Everything starts to kind of collapse. How much are we going to start to rely on these tools, and what is it that they can really do? It's really funny listening to how these tools can, beat the bar exam or beat various assessments. Of course they can. They're cheating. These tools cheat, right? They have ultimate open book exams. Like they've memorized the entire book. And so of course they can beat these things. It would be shameful if all the LSAT textbooks in the world didn't then produce, a tool that could easily query itself and see what the answer should be to all those LSAT questions. But now that we have something that can do these things, that can guess better than us, and that can code faster than us with better correctness, what is our role? So I think the next question that we need to ask is, what is actually the human component in this? I think market forces will keep looking for cheaper options to everything that we do, whether philosophically we want education to dramatically change. Maybe we have a very sort of nostalgic notion of what education should be. Maybe we feel like we should be in a monastery thinking philosophically about things. But the truth is the market drives what we do. And if something is cheaper, it'll probably be a success. And so what is it about? We know that this is going to be cheaper for so many things. Rich and I have been exploring how to take one of my courses and completely robotify it, so that, just basically pushing this to its limits so that we can replace me as an educator, just to see how much I can be replaced. And I bet it's pretty far. I think it's going to do a pretty good job. I'm excited to see how it goes. It's not that I'm trying to bring on my own, my own obsolescence, but I think it's a good idea for us to think through how much can we really be replaced, and then what is our final role in this space, so that we can work on that. As educators, our business is education. We do need to know where we fit as educators, what the special sauce is that we bring. My thinking is that that human touch, human emotion, human motivation, pragmatics, all of these things are genuinely important in education. But it remains to be seen. And I think until we've tried it, until we've gotten ahead of it and tried it, I really don't think we'll know. And I feel like for our university, for our institution, it's our job to get ahead. I guess I should have gone on one slide. Yeah, there we go. What comes next? It's our job as educators to try and figure out what education will look like in 15 years. Even in 2 years, it's going to have dramatically changed. All of those things that we've said, TAs will be, augmented, and instructors will be augmented. But in 15 years, what will it actually look like? How many of us will there be, and what will classes be like? And will there be classes? And will it just be students talk to robots and then come to an office hour? I'd love to hear everybody's perspectives. Celeste, I see you've joined. Just be delighted to hear your perspective on this. And I think, that's one of the reasons that we sort of set this, Lucas is going to go over the shape of the plan, but this is one of the reasons that we wanted to explore the depths of this, because it is truly our mandate here at this enormous university, this massive university in Western Canada, that we should really be leading the way in seeing what is coming in the next decade, so that we can, to some extent, influence the space. I don't think we want to be the ones on the back foot. I think we want to be, to some extent, the deciders and the way pavers for the way that education is going to take shape. Luckily, we are behind in some things, as everyone always is in this global world. Everyone's always behind in something, but we're ahead in some other things. And I think right now we can get ahead in thinking about what our massive role is in totally revolutionizing education to really bring this on, so that we can be an ally with the new approach, as opposed to being just a rider of the tidal wave. So that is that's my thinking. And yeah, I'm excited to explore this with everybody here.